The march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Year after year, we watch the threat steadily increase. And now, this winter has been the worst on record when it comes to our immune systems and health. For more than 2 years, InfoWarsLife.com has been watching this crisis intensify, and Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Complex was our answer. Using a proprietary process that takes ancient proven herbs and combines them with modern science, this powerful and affordable formula contains more than 14 key herbs and extracts, including echinacea, ginger root, elderberry, golden seal root, a proprietary yin chio formula, and many, many more. I take it, and so does my family. It's made in the USA, gluten-free, alcohol-free, no artificial flavors or colors, and not tested on animals. Take advantage of this introductory offer for Ancient Defense, normally $19.95, now only $14.95. That's 25% off. Visit InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139 to secure your Ancient Defense. Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com Oil of Oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules, you will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put 2 and 2 together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds, is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled I-N-F-I-D-E-L, bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit.
When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in. No one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. Just one of the key compounds, BioPQQ, is backed by major clinical studies. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? We now have the synergistic solution. Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
You can run on for a long time.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I'm going to be taking your calls in this half hour. Pretty much on any topic that you want to talk about. We've covered a lot of different things here. In the next hour, we're going to talk to Rosa Koire with who wrote the book Behind the Green Mask. We're going to talk to her about UN Agenda 21. And, of course, we're seeing some aspects of that very publicly rolled out with the mass control of transportation. It's not only in the United States, but it's also in the UK. It looks like they're going to go beyond just these light rail corridors. The next step is actually to move into a kind of government-controlled grid where they take control of your car and actually drive it wherever they want to, restricting your travel. And as we just heard from a caller, the TSA is already telling people when they buy vehicles. He was buying a motorcycle. He had to pay a tax, and the TSA looked to see if he was on a no-fly list before he could buy a motorcycle. And also, if he paid more than $2,500, that had to be reported to the TSA. What do you think they're going to do when they control your car? Do you really want to see that happen? And of course, light rail has really been where the Agenda 21 people have hung out in terms of trying to create these so-called corridors, merging cities into concentrated areas for the population so they can get us off of the land. But it's not just the trains. They're going to be looking at self-driving cars. This is an article from back in November, this last November. This was from Forbes magazine. And they were talking, Fortune magazine. It said trains and self-driving cars are headed for a political collision. And of course, they say the promise of what they call autonomous vehicles, they're not autonomous. They're part of the hive, if you will, when the government controls it. I have a self-driving car right now. That's not what I'm going to have in the future. They say it's becoming a popular talking point for opponents of mass transit systems. As one person pointed out, it's like they're designing the Pony Express in the world of the telegraph. That's right. They already know that they're going to roll out these so-called autonomous vehicles where they put all your cars on the Internet of Things and control them. So why do you need light rail to go places? Before they can get these light rail projects built, they're going to have the control of your car. And so it basically makes it into a buggy whip system. But of course, it was never about transporting people. These light rail issues have never been about mass transportation. It's been about paying off corporate donors. And we were just talking in the last half hour about the Keystone Pipeline, how that shows how owned our Congress is by special interests, by corporate interests. And now the Senate has passed the Keystone Pipeline bill. The House has already passed it 9 times. And so now the 10th time, the very first order of business when they come back is to pass the Keystone Pipeline. Whether you're for it or not, what it shows is just how corrupt and how driven by a few corporate interests our government is. And it's not just the Republicans. The Democrats are just as guilty. They're going to push through the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is also being run by a few corporations who want to use this as part of a kind of global governance. They're going to put themselves on a par with governments when it comes to negotiating effects of their legislation. They can take them to a arbitration effect where they have essentially the corporations will have the same power as a state. And we've already seen this happen with NAFTA and with other trade agreements that were smaller. Now they're combining these into a global governance. We've already seen how corporations can go to an arbitration process and get the taxpayers to pay them for damages because their profits have been hurt because of new legislation. You don't get that kind of protection as an individual. You don't get that kind of protection as a corporation that just does business within one jurisdiction. It's only the giant multinational corporations that are going to get that. And it's just part of the total corruption, the graft, the greed that we see, what we call as crony capitalism. Of course, they're selling that as a kind of capitalism. It is not capitalism. It's anything but. But going back to this trains versus self-driving cars, they point out that the Florida governor, and this whole story in Fortune magazine was about what was going on in Florida. They point out Florida Governor Rick Scott has opposed high-speed rail lines. He's even rejected federal funding for a Tampa to Orlando high-speed rail line because, of course, that's a trap. The government is going to give you a little bit of, the federal government give you a little bit of money to prime the pump, and then they'll pull it back just like they're going to do with Obamacare. But it says that conservatives really like this idea of autonomous vehicles because they don't understand it's part of the control grid. And we're going to be talking to Rosa Koire about how that's going to play out as they move from light rail corridors to controlling your cars. Before I go back to your calls, I want to let you know that this hour of the Alex Jones Show is brought to you by the specials that we run at InfoWarsLife.com. And the one that we got running right now is buy 2 X2 nascent iodines and you get 1 Ancient Defense free. The Ancient Defense, of course, is our new herbal immunity formula. This is a limited introductory offer. You save $20 if you buy 2 nascent iodines and get that 1 Ancient Defense for free. And of course, the supplies are limited and that will be ending soon. Right now, that's a $20 savings if you get 2 nascent iodine and 1 Ancient Defense for free. And you'll find that at InfoWarsLife.com. Let's go back to your calls right now. Let's go to Ramon in Texas. Ramon, you're calling from 90.1 right here in Austin, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking my call. I've got a question, a couple of questions, and then I've got kind of what I'm thinking is a solution. I've never really heard anybody talk about it, but and the questions are kind of simple. Do you consider yourself a human being?
Do I? Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you consider a robot a human being?
No.
Do you consider a corporation a human being?
No, I disagree with Mitt Romney on that.
Okay. Do you consider like a police dog to have human rights?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's pretty straightforward. You know, they're moving to a singularity and trying to download their consciousness into, we're talking about the 0.001% or whatever, into a robot. The corporations are gaining more and more rights. They're gaining human rights, and essentially they want to incorporate, at least this is my understanding or my belief or my made-up, theory, is that they want to be able to be in control of everything. Speaking of corridors, they want to ship us down the highway like cattle in a corridor.
Oh, absolutely. You are their slaves, you're their chattel, and as I said before, it's not going to be a planet, it's going to be a plantation if they have their way.
Absolutely. So basically, here's the string that ties everything, that if we pull on that string, maybe it'll unravel a good portion of it. But if we were to, if everyone that has an agenda or a program or a voice or whatever, if we were able to unitedly push for legislation creating a human being, as a genetic, Adam and Eve, I don't know exactly. I mean, I can think of a lot of things that would go into that. And then a corporation, which is pretty obvious, is not a human being, does not have rights like a human, then if we were to pull that string and unravel, it would unravel a lot of their structure and a lot of their laws that are allowing them to medicate us without permission, to treat us like animals, essentially.
Well,
I don't know if you know.
Absolutely. Ramon, there's a lot of prevarication that goes on when they start taking our rights away. One of the things is going in and playing with definitions, like who is a human, who has rights, as you point out, giving special rights to police dogs, while the police will shoot your own dog at your house in a heartbeat, even if they're mistakenly on your property, even if the dog is no threat. But if anything happens to a police dog, it's treated as if you attacked a police officer. So we have these types of things. I think we really need to call them on it. I want to talk to Hugo de Garis. We've been trying to reach him as someone who has been involved in trying to create artificial brains. He's very skeptical of the singularity. And of course, I am too. There's absolutely no way, even if you could transfer a copy of everything that you know into some machine, that is not going to be you. That's going to be a copy of you. It may be a good copy. It may not be a good copy. Who knows? It might be something like Multiplicity. Remember that movie from the 90s, I think it was, Michael Keaton? He cloned himself, and of course the clones come out exactly like him, fully mature, the same age that he is. And then one of the clones makes a copy of him, of itself, and it doesn't quite, it's pretty stupid. It's walking into walls and basically points out, well, it's kind of like, when you make a copy of a copy on a photocopier, each successive generation, you lose a little bit there. Regardless, it gets to the point of whether or not you make a copy, it is still not you. We need to talk about what consciousness is. How do you define consciousness? It's not just about processing power. When you talk about the multiplication of technology, you talk about Moore's Law with computer processing, doubling in power every 18 months, extrapolating that out and saying, yeah, we're going to have the computer power to have self-aware machines. Well, you need to talk about what consciousness is. But I'm really concerned about how this is going to be used by the technocratic elite that we were warned about by Eisenhower. It's not just the military-industrial complex, of course. What he warned us about was how research and how the universities would be taken over by the military-industrial complex. And we see pretty much that they're running all of the research right now, them and corporations like Google. And of course, the potential for this, even if it doesn't become a self-aware machine, the potential for damage, the potential for massive abuse of power using this kind of technology as a leverage is something we really ought to be concerned about. And before I move on to the next call, there was an article that I saw not too long ago. It's called The Knowledge, London's Legendary Taxi Driver Test. This is where, if you're not from the UK, you don't know anything about what happens in London, they have an incredibly complex road network there. constantly changing names. It's twisting and turning because it has evolved over several hundred years. So the taxi drivers there had to do what they call